Gaetan Bucher is the chief executive and visionary behind perhaps the most ambitious global banking and financial services brand in the Americas today, the Independent Financial Center of the Americas.
One of the big challenges around this whole thing has always been, how do you create a new standardizing platform for the 21st century? How do you create a new financial center so well done that it'll surpass all of the existing regulatory standards and all of the standards of work and all of the standards of ethics?
What motivated you to establish the center?
There always has been a very evident need in the Latin American region for a standardizing financial platform that the region lacks. And it is only a standardizing financial platform that will allow the wider region particularly to develop further in the 21st century. Capital markets, clearing and settlement centers, and a number of other financial services that are going to be offered from the center itself are going to help the whole region as a development platform.
Let's talk about your background as a Swiss banker, an established and successful Swiss banker.
I'll give you a little bit of my background. I'm Dominican Swiss, half and half. Mm-hmm. My father's father moved from Switzerland to the Dominican Republic in the early 20th century for the sugar industry and so forth, and those were wonderful pioneering times. My father was also born in the DR and became the country's foremost sugar expert and banking expert. At 20, I went back to the old country and was in Geneva for 15 years, where I got into the financial services industry, financial services area, Swiss banking, Swiss private banking. My 15 years in Switzerland as a banker and my experience in doing that motivated me to go back to the DR at some point and do something wonderful for the country and for the wider region, to build this, which is the world's next best financial center.
So what's the vision for the center?
The vision is to become one of the leading global financial centers by the year 2015, and therefore be a global financial center that is in the middle of the American continent. It happens to be in the DR as a global financial platform with global standards, global credentials and expertise, but at the same time becoming a Latin American platform. And therefore a standardizing platform for the Latin American region, from the region to the world, and from the world to the region. The best way of going about that is to go and hire some of the world's best consultants and advisors in each area that make up something like this, such as Deloitte of London, such as Patton Boggs of Washington, D.C., Wing Creative, the branding agency out of London, such as Booz Allen, such as IBM Global, and the list is very long.
I understand you've been research and development has been about 4 years in this process. What's been the outcome of that research and development?
It's been a 4.5-year process where the yielding result is the master plan over 25 years on a building site and on a construction site that will be 7,000 acres, which is about 32 million square meters, oceanfront in the DR, a 10-minute drive due east from the main airport, right smack in the middle between the capital city and the country's best resorts. To give you an idea of scale, the financial center itself is about the size of Central Park in New York City, and that is less than 1/10 of the entire project. The rest is the creation of a lifestyle around this financial center, carefully planned, ideally planned, to meet the challenges of the 21st century life-work balance, authentically set in the middle of the American continent.
Why did you place the center in the Dominican Republic?
Well, there are two reasons. One is obviously because I am from there, but most importantly, after a long period of research, it was proven by independent third parties that the Dominican Republic is ideally placed in the middle of the American continent to act as a threshold between North and South America and between Americas, Europe, Asia, and the rest of the world.
And what kind of clients do you hope to attract to the center, and what kind of business will they do at the center?
When you look at the financial center industry, and as it has developed over the last 100 years, particularly the last 20 years, where we've had recent experiences in the Middle East, you start seeing different kinds of financial centers, or as we call them, centers of financial activity. So here we have taken the time to purpose build and purpose design an infrastructure for our financial center itself. We will attract headquarters of multinationals, banks, bankers, their spouses, and their kids. And as far as the banking industry goes, we will attract global financial services, particularly focused on Latin American financial services. So front, middle, and back offices of banks, naturally, and only top top-tier banks on that.
There's obviously been an increase in the amount of complex financial regulations that govern international transactions. Are financial centers such as yours still a commercially viable option?
When you look at the last 100 years of banking regulatory history, you start finding interesting things. You see the creation in the early 90s of things like the Financial Action Task Force, whose role has been and will continue being the creation of a level playing field in the international financial industry generally. September 11th changed everything. What has actually happened now is that you have such an effort on compliance since then, particularly on anti-terrorist financing, that all these systems that have existed for 100 years have a very difficult time adjusting to the 40+9 recommendations on anti-money laundering and anti-terrorist financing of the Financial Action Task Force.
So why is it important to create this new regulatory framework?
We have acted as a think tank for 4 years, and that think tank has yielded many interesting results. Taking the advantage to, on a clean slate, write a completely new regulatory framework based upon a new legal framework in the shape of a law written by some of our experts at Deloitte London and Patton Boggs in Washington, D.C., that has passed through the Dominican Congress. And that law creates a regulatory body such that it's away from political influence, and it will be populated by some of the world's leading experts. Now, furthermore, another point of difference that this financial center has is that it is a privately owned and run financial center that is regulated by this new regulatory body. So therefore, you end up having the balance of the best of both worlds. So here you have a model where the financial center itself is privately owned and therefore is very efficient in its running. The regulatory body is independent from politics and it can run the best way that it possibly can. And it's in the interest of both the regulator and the commercial entity that this does not get into any trouble and that no money laundering happens and no terrorist financing happens.
So you're not creating the center in a vacuum. There's a range of other financial services available throughout Latin America and the United States. How are you going to differentiate this offering and how are you going to maintain competitive advantage in the long term?
Absolutely. Well, that's where the 4.5 years of research comes in. When you create an infrastructure of such critical mass as 7,000 acres, on a business case over 25 years, with very high revenue points on the longer end of the 25 years, allow you to, from early on, create such an infrastructure to provide all the services from day one, and therefore differentiating ourselves in services, in infrastructure, in regulation, in positioning, in branding, in lifestyle. We have purpose-built an infrastructure best in class for offices in the Latin American region, equaled to the very best in the world.
Talk to me about the technical infrastructure in a little more detail. What are you creating and how is it going to enable clients to do a range of things?
Key to the undertaking is the technology and communication platform we've designed to deploy over 25 years that will allow us to give our clients a level of service, including redundancy and backed up systems unequaled in the region.
How do you plan to attract top executives from around the world to the center and get them to bring their families to the Dominican Republic?
We are creating a very, very interesting lifestyle piece of a very large living area that includes homes, malls, hospitals, international schools, hotels, convention center, center of the performing arts, and an ocean complex. The lifestyle part of this is very interesting. We don't like to call it lifestyle, we call it life work. When we started working on the financial center idea back in 2003, it became evident to us that the quality of life built around the financial center was as important as the financial services themselves. And therefore, we custom designed a life-work balance for the 21st century in what we're now calling La Réserve. It is time we accept that there is a very thin line between the work life and the personal life. And the important thing is to give you the infrastructure and the building blocks so that you can do each thing when you choose to. A work-life balance for somebody might be, like myself, working 12-hour days. For other people, it will be working 6-hour days, going home to 5 kids and playing 18 holes of golf. The quality of life and the level of services offered in this new platform will be equal to the very best in the world and at the same time be in the middle of the American continent. in a very positive region where you have natural beauty interplaying with high tech to allow you the opportunity to create the life-work balance that you're looking for.
This is going to be a very complex operation, obviously. How do you plan to manage this?
We already have our COO, CFO, and CIO in place, all which are of global standards, having worked for some of the world's best companies. We have orchestrated everything to reduce risk for our clients, therefore reduce risk for banks, financial services institutions, and multinationals. The cost efficiency of the undertaking comes from the critical mass of the whole infrastructure being built and the number of services being provided to our clients in the platform we are actually making. Remembering always, we are not a bank. We are the platform upon which banks and financial services institutions, as well as multinationals, will set up shop. And most importantly for the Latin American region, there is a very distinct need for a clearing and settlement platform, not unlike Euroclear did for Europe many years back. And that is the model upon which the Clearing and Settlement Center for the Latin American region is built within the center itself.
Obviously, one of the key elements for success for your clients is to have a pool of great local talent. How are you going to develop and maintain that local talent?
Mercer Human Resource Consulting has developed the 25-year business capital model for us. We've identified a very good pool of talent within the DR, a very good pool of repatriate talent, Dominicans living abroad, and a fantastic pool of expatriate talent from the Latin American region, all willing to move to this new infrastructure, which is top end.
You've laid out a pretty grand and ambitious plan. How do you plan to finance the center?
Contrary to most other financial centers existing now, where it has been the state funding the construction of the financial center, we have been scrutinized by the international financial markets, and they have found that our business model is so efficient that they will finance it themselves.
Why is your method of financing important in this case?
It's very important because the market discipline behind the financing, because it is a private company, allows us the efficiencies of a private company too.
Let's talk about the timescale for the project. Is this something you're going to do all at once, or are you going to phase it? How's it going to work?
Over 25 years, we will build 9 million square feet of office space, 3,000 homes, malls, hospital, convention center, hotel, and all the supporting infrastructure, giving the people living there tools to create the kind of life that you wish to within an environment that is obsessive about quality, that is safe, and that is very comfortable to live in. Therefore, phase one of all those things starts construction in 2008, and phase one will be open for business in 2011.
So why is this the right time to launch the center?
The 21st century regulatory challenges provide an opportunity to, from a clean slate, create a new regulatory framework. Alongside with it, the Latin American region has never had a standardizing platform for financial services and transactions. And those are the two parts that combined make the opportunity, which is the creation of the world's next best financial center.